The day I said yes to Ava, I flash-traveled 7 years into our marriage. I opened my eyes to a crumpled divorce agreement in my hand, and our son was looking at me, sighing. Every time you see Uncle Ethan, you threaten to divorce Mom. You don't even have the guts to do it. Dad, can you please just stop? I stared hard at him, but I didn't argue this time. I just calmly started packing. The day I left, Ava held back our crying son. Just behave. Your father will be back in less than 3 days. He's pulled this stunt a dozen times. Where's he gonna go? But no one expected that countless 3 days would pass, and I would never set foot in that house again. Later, a 19-year-old Ava would ask me, her eyes red, "Why are you backing out? You promised. Please don't leave me." I had agreed to be with Ava on a summer afternoon. The sunlight was so thick it made the cicadas chirping feel sticky, and the school hallway was a sea of noisy students. Ava ran back and forth 3 times, the hem of her white t-shirt fluttering in the breeze. The last time, she turned to run for the stairs, took 2 steps, then rushed back. Her eyes were bright as stars, her voice tight with nervousness. "Don't you dare back out. I'll come get you first thing in the morning." From high school through college, everyone knew how much Ava liked me, because I'd once said I'd think about it. Ava, a rich girl who'd never cared about school, buckled down and studied like crazy. She clawed her way up from the bottom of the class, just barely scraping by to get into the same university as me. Her affection was always bold, but never pushy. Even after we were at the same school, she never pressured me. The most she did was follow me around like a little shadow, a tactic to ward off any other admirers. If anyone asked, she'd just laugh. "Can't you see? I'm just taking a number and waiting in line." "You? Waiting in line? Get out of here. Don't you know it's first come, first served? I've been chasing him since high school. You think you can cut in line? In your dreams." After Ava left, I touched my burning earlobe, my mind filled with the image of her vibrant face. When I woke up the next day, Ava wasn't there to pick me up. Blinding light streamed through the curtains. I instinctively squinted, then suddenly realized this wasn't the rock-hard mattress from my dorm room. I looked around, my heart clenching. I glanced up at the crystal chandelier, then down at the plush carpet, where even the direction of the fibers seemed exquisitely deliberate. Where was I? The next second, the heavy bedroom door opened with the pitter-patter of footsteps. I looked up to see a little boy, about 4 or 5 years old, walking toward me with a displeased frown. He called out, "Dad." Seeing his face, I froze. He was a spitting image of me. I glanced at the calendar on the desk. 2025. Did I go to sleep and wake up years in the future? I looked back at the child. His eyebrows, eyes, nose, and mouth, every feature looked just like mine. I studied his face, completely fascinated. An image of 19-year-old Ava suddenly flashed through my mind. The girl who had confessed to me just yesterday, her ears bright red. I just wondered, after all these years, was Ava the one I married? I scanned the room again. There wasn't a single trace of a mother's presence, not even one wedding photo. I carefully knelt down and looked at the boy. "Hey buddy, what's your name?" Kids are easy to get information from. He answered right away. "My name is Alex. What are you up to now?" He really was her son. I felt a wave of relief, but also a pang of discomfort. "Is that any way to talk to your father?" The kid seemed spoiled rotten. But looking at that face, which was 90% a copy of my own, my heart melted into a puddle, and I couldn't bring myself to say a single word of reprimand. While I was still lost in a daze, Alex suddenly snatched a crumpled piece of paper from the bedside table. He obviously couldn't read, but he was strangely familiar with this paper. "Dad, here you go again." He looked up at me, his little face full of disapproval. "Every time you see Uncle Ethan, you pull out this paper and fight with Mom. Uncle Ethan already said that even if he brings his and Aunt Shelley's kid over, it won't bother us, but you still almost pushed him over." As he spoke, he suddenly shoved me. "This is for Uncle Ethan." The boy was surprisingly strong, and the push knocked me back onto the edge of the bed. At the same time, his words tumbled into my mind like rolling stones, grinding painfully against my consciousness. My eyes fell on the paper. The words divorce agreement were big, bold, and searing. In the next instant, those words morphed into streaks of blood-red light and shot straight into my head. Suddenly, a flood of unfamiliar, painful, and resentful memories, the memories of the future Leo, poured into my mind. The final scene in that memory was the mocking, triumphant face of a man. It was the uncle Ethan Alex had mentioned, Ava's lover, the celebrity Ethan Grant. The pain that came with the memories was like a fine net, squeezing my chest so tightly I could barely breathe. I almost collapsed, sinking to my knees beside the bed. Alex glanced at me, a flicker of concern in his eyes that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He let out a small huff. It was today. Ethan had shown up at our door, bold and brazen, here to provoke and show off. And the person who had opened the door for him, the person who had welcomed him in with joy, was Alex. The older Leo had been in the kitchen preparing a snack for his son when he heard the faint sounds of conversation and came out. The first thing he saw was Ethan, dressed in head-to-toe Dior with a designer watch on his wrist, taking off his sunglasses and surveying the villa as if he were the man of the house. Leo couldn't understand. Ava had promised him she had gotten rid of Ethan. Why would he dare to show his face again? But he didn't want to ask. With a cold expression, he told him to get out. But Alex rushed forward and stood in front of Ethan protectively. "Uncle Ethan is a guest I invited." "Dad, you're being so rude." Leo was trembling with rage, but he never imagined that something even more sickening was about to happen. Ethan said that he and his ex-girlfriend, Shelley, had a child who was already 3 years old. Just 5 months ago, Ava had sworn to him that she would cut off all of Ethan's resources and never see him again. The color drained from Leo's face. He kept pulling at Alex, trying to get him to go back inside. He was terrified of his son hearing that his mother was involved with another man's family. But Alex just looked up at the man and said, "When my little brother gets here, I'll play with him. Don't worry, Uncle Ethan. Mom and I will both love him." Leo couldn't believe it. The child he had poured his heart and soul into raising had taken his mother's side against him, and then looked at him calmly and said, "You're acting like a psycho." In the memory, Leo and Ava had decided to have a child in their 3rd year of marriage. By then, Ava's company had gone public, and her career was stable. After their son was born, Leo, trusting Ava's promises, stepped down from the company to be a full-time stay-at-home dad. He had devoted almost everything to this child, only to be met with utter contempt. Ethan would secretly take Alex out for fun, let him eat junk food, and give him whatever he wanted. Alex would tell anyone who would listen that his mom was a big star, not some country bumpkin. Leo disliked relying on others. Even with countless nannies in the house, he did everything himself. To take care of his son, Leo shed all his former refinement. He wore whatever was comfortable, stopped styling his once meticulous hair, and lost all his former flair. Compared to the ever-stylish Ethan on screen and in magazines, he was painfully plain and dull. Ethan's arrival completely shattered Leo's carefully constructed illusion of a peaceful, happy life. He had provoked him more than once. At first, it was an accidental glimpse of Ava on his social media. Later, he even called Leo late at night to challenge him. "You should know about me and Ava by now. She likes that I'm young and handsome. Says I remind her of how you used to be. It's normal for an old guy like you to lose his woman." He had gotten with Ava at 19 now. 2 years later, he was only 21, weaponizing his youth and good looks. But at that time, Ava found out about the call. She had coldly blacklisted him for 2 months. So this time, he had come secretly without telling Ava. He pulled out a photo of his child on his phone, still gloating. "So pathetic. She lied and told you she was going to blacklist me. But behind your back, she was secretly compensating me with resources. Oh, by the way, that new luxury condo development uptown, the one you couldn't get on the list for? Ava had the developer give me a unit directly. Said it was for me and my kid. He was a mess when he left, but he didn't forget to tell Alex not to mention what happened today to Ava." Alex puffed out his chest and promised he would keep it a secret. As for Leo, Ethan wasn't worried he'd say anything. In the 2 years he'd been entangled with Ava, Ethan had come to understand Leo better than anyone. He was stubborn and proud. When it came to the men around Ava, he had long become numb, like a pool of stagnant water. Ethan's plan was to use the child to provoke Leo's rage. Apparently, it worked. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the 19-year-old Leo waking up here. Although the memories of 31-year-old Leo flooded my mind, my soul was still that of my 19-year-old self. I hadn't personally lived through those years of thankless devotion. So the fury was slightly blunted, but the bitterness was etched on my face, which must have looked terrifying. I grabbed Alex's small wrist and asked sharply, "Alex, who taught you to speak to your father like that?" 31-year-old Leo would never have dared to scold him. He would only blame himself for not being good enough. By the end of the story, he had long since stopped looking for external answers and turned inward. He blamed himself for everything, convinced that his wife's affair and his son's hostility were his own fault. Alex had probably never seen this side of his father. No matter how out of control or angry his dad had been in the past, he had always been gentle with him. He trembled, frightened, and his eyes immediately turned red. The next second, he bit down hard on the back of my hand. I yelped in pain and let go. He started crying and screaming, "I hate you. You're a psycho. You're not my dad. I don't want you to be my dad." Alex had said things like this before, but in the memories, Leo's first reaction was always fear. He would immediately hug him and apologize through sobs.
"I'm sorry, sweetie.
Daddy's not good enough. Please don't hate Daddy, okay?" But I just watched him coldly. "What makes you think I'm so eager to be your dad?" He froze at my words, his fingers digging into the corner of the bed. But his past experience of fighting with his father had made him fearless. He stuck his neck out like a little rooster determined to win a fight. The words that came out weren't an apology but another attempt to push his father into the abyss. Alex's face was flushed, tears clinging to the corners of his eyes as he glared at me. "You're just a coward. You only threaten divorce to get Mom's attention. You don't actually have the guts to do it." Even though my soul didn't care, a wave of pain surged through my body. Just then, a cold voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Alex, who taught you to talk like that?" I looked up and met the eyes of the woman leaning against the doorframe. Compared to her youthful high school self and her fresh-faced college look, the Ava before me was much more mature. She must have just come from a business dinner. Her blouse was unbuttoned at the top, the sleeves rolled up to her forearms, and a jacket was draped over her wrist. Ava walked in and looked at Alex, her expression flat. "If I hear you say anything like that again, I'm taking away all your toys." Alex sniffled and clamped his mouth shut, not daring to say another word. Ava glanced at me, then at the divorce agreement on the floor. "And you? What's this about now?" Her eyes were weary, and she smelled faintly of alcohol. "You've been waving this thing around for 3 years. The paper's worn out. You could at least print a new copy. And I'll say what I always say." She paused, her voice hardening. "If you dare to divorce me, I'll make sure Alex's life is more miserable than anyone's." The image in my mind of the vibrant, lively Ava in her white t-shirt, the girl's hesitant heartbeat, her passionate and pure sincerity, seemed to blur and fade in an instant. All that was left was this unrecognizable, awful person in front of me. I stared at her for a long moment, then raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. I didn't understand it. The 19-year-old Leo was brave and passionate, capable of loving and hating fiercely. Faced with betrayal, that Leo should have struck back hard and made a clean break. But the older Leo, upon discovering the betrayal, had only felt sadness and resentment, sinking deeper into a vortex of despair day after day, unable to even slap Ava. Thinking of this, I raised my left hand again, but Ava caught my wrist. "Enough!" Her face flushed with anger, but she quickly softened her expression. Her fingers slid up my wrist and clasped my hand tightly, so tightly it was as if she was afraid I'd pull away. "Don't scare the boy. We already agreed, didn't we? Let the past go. We'll have a good life from now on. Leo, you're the only one for me. That's never changed." Looking at her face, which was even more beautiful than before. I only felt disgust. I bent down, picked up the divorce agreement and said without looking up, "Get out. Both of you." Ava clenched her fists, watching my movements, but didn't budge. It was Alex who realized I was yelling at them and muttered under his breath, "Yell at me all you want. When you try to feed me later, I won't eat a single bite." Ava clicked her tongue and frowned at him. Alex fell silent, tugging at the hem of his shirt. She thought for a moment, then said, "You need to calm down." With that, she turned, placed a hand on Alex's head, and led him out of the room. Once outside the bedroom, Ava walked a few steps, then stopped and turned to her son. The boy looked so much like Leo, especially his eyes, clear, bright, and full of spirit. The first crack in her relationship with Leo had appeared when Alex was born. Back then, Leo had screamed and raged. She had been terrified he would reject the child, too. But then he started spending his nights watching the baby in the cradle, staring at Alex's face. And just like that, Ava had found his weak spot, the key to maintaining their illusion of peace. But today's Leo seemed different. He was still bare-faced and cold toward her, but there was a new finality in his coldness. She felt as if something was about to break through the dull, long-suppressed silence within him. Before she could think further, Alex tugged on her sleeve. He was still angry with his father, pouting unhappily. "Mom, can't Uncle Ethan be my dad? My dad doesn't like me, so I don't want to like him either." Ava narrowed her eyes and shot him a look. "Who the hell does he think he is? He's not worthy of being your father." Her patience for him, what little there was, ended there. And Alex, from the moment he could understand, had absorbed a core belief. Mom says I'm the chain that holds Dad here. As long as I'm around, he'll never leave. He knew what his mother liked to hear. Whenever his parents fought, if his dad still showed concern for him, his mom would pay him a little more attention. Alex looked at the closed bedroom door and declared, "It won't even be half an hour. Dad will be begging to read me a bedtime story." He pattered off to his own room and, mimicking his father, shut the door tight. "But I'm still a little mad. If Dad doesn't apologize, I'm not letting him read to me." Ava stood between the two closed doors, unfazed by this little drama between father and son. Half an hour? Given how much Leo cared about his son, he'd pull himself together and come out in less than 10 minutes. Ava sat on the sofa, one hand propping up her forehead, the other tapping restlessly on her leg. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes. Half an hour. An hour. Inside the bedroom, I stared at the person in the full-length mirror. He was wearing outdated clothes. His hair was a limp mess. His face was pale and bare, and his large, bright eyes were completely lifeless. He looked like the living dead. My fingers touched the face in the mirror. I was speechless. How did I end up like this? I searched my mind, piecing together the fragments of the last 12 years. Before we even finished college, Ava's family had run into trouble. Refusing to be beaten, she started over from scratch with nothing but sheer grit. In 2007, when the stock market was in an unprecedented bull run, I took all my savings and went all in with her. We cashed out at the peak, multiplying our initial investment many times over. That money became the seed money for what would become Apex Group. In those early years of building the business, we supported each other. We faced scorn and cold shoulders from the outside world, but back in our little rental, we could still smile. In that sunless basement apartment, I would often stare at the tiny window. I'd hold an exhausted Ava in my arms, patting her gently and whispering, "We're going to make it out of here." Later, the small company grew bigger with more people, more money, and a house that felt emptier and emptier. Ava was only 27 when she was invited back to our alma mater for an alumni speaker series. She was young, sharp, and beautiful. During the QA session, a young man boldly asked, "Are you single, ma'am?" Ava smiled and held up her left hand, showing off the ring I had carefully chosen for her. "No, my husband and I have been married for 3 years. The young man held the microphone, ignoring the laughter in the room, and looked directly at her. "Who knows what the future holds? Plenty of married people get divorced." He bowed dramatically like a mischievous child. No offense, ma'am. I'm just kidding. Ava's expression didn't change, but she finally gave him a real look. The boy sat down, his neck held high, satisfied. Neither of us took the incident seriously, at least I didn't. Later, I learned the boy's name was Ethan. By the time I found out, I had already stepped down from my management role at the company after Alex was born, and Ethan had gone from being an intern to Ava's personal assistant. The scene I walked in on was this. I opened her office door to find him with his arm casually draped over her shoulder. Ava was letting him, their posture intimate. The moment he saw me, he shot up in a panic. Leo, what are you doing here? I crossed my arms, a knot of pressure in my chest. Get out. He glanced at the composed Ava, bit his lip, and walked out, but turned back to say, there's nothing going on between me and Ava. Don't get the wrong idea. Ava stood up and calmly steadied me. What are you doing at the office? Don't mind him. He's just a kid with too much time on his hands. It was nothing, but he makes it look like we were having an affair. We were just going over her schedule. He just has no sense of boundaries. I'll talk to him later. Her calm demeanor at that moment made me think I was being overly sensitive, and I actually felt ashamed. Until a month later, when I received a disgusting picture message. In the photo, Ava was leaning against Ethan just like she used to lean against me. When Ava found out later, she swore on her life and apologized, explaining over and over that there was nothing between her and Ethan. She fired Ethan and stayed by my side constantly, terrified I would do something drastic, even more terrified I would leave. During those sleepless nights, I would just lie there, my head turned, staring at the tiny figure in the cradle without blinking. If only this child didn't exist, how much better things would be. But who could have imagined that the child I would have sacrificed everything for years ago to ensure he grew up healthy and safe would one day become the blade turned against me? I looked at the person in the mirror, and the light slowly returned to my eyes. 31-year-old Leo was dead. He had too many attachments and too much resentment, so he called me here to save him from this hell. After cleaning up the mess in the room, I carefully combed my messy hair, making it look neat and sharp. I opened the door. The large living room was empty. I called over to Mr. Lee, the cook, and instructed him, make me some noodles.
I'm hungry.
He wiped his hands on his apron, looking hesitant. So late. Are you sure you want me to start cooking now? I turned and looked at him, my gaze cold. Can you do it or not? If not, you don't have to come in tomorrow. He muttered under his breath, the madam is the one who pays my salary, and she hasn't said anything about firing me. Sometimes, when you're speechless, all you can do is scoff. You think if I told Ava I wanted you gone, she wouldn't listen to me? If you really think I don't even have the power to make that small decision, feel free to test it. I didn't waste any more words on him. I walked to the dining table, sat down, and stared at him from across the room. Mr. Lee lowered his head and immediately went into the kitchen. A bowl of noodles doesn't take long. I was starving, but I ate slowly. Just then, the clock on the wall chimed softly. I glanced over and saw the hour hand pointing to 10. My mind flashed on something I seemed to have forgotten, and it took a moment to remember. Around this time every night, if Alex was still awake, I would read him a bedtime story. I kept my head down and didn't move, continuing to eat my noodles at a leisurely pace. A moment later, I heard a noise from the bedroom to my left. I looked up. Alex had opened his door and was standing there, watching me, holding a half-finished storybook. He fidgeted for a while before magnanimously saying, "Fine, I'm not mad at you anymore. I'll allow you to read me a story tonight, but you have to do it after you finish your noodles. Hurry up and eat or I'll get mad again." I glanced at him, then my eyes drifted back to my noodles. I didn't say a word, just left him standing there. Honestly, compared to 31-year-old Leo, I, who only had these memories of our father-son relationship, felt much more detached from Alex. Perhaps because he had never been treated this way before, Alex got genuinely angry. "Fine, don't read it. If you ever want to read to me again, I won't listen to a single word." With that, he slammed the door. My chopsticks paused for a second, but I still didn't move. Mr. Lee was wiping the table nearby, saying in a passive-aggressive tone, "You shouldn't be so stubborn, sir. You're just fighting with the young master. You know you'll just end up begging for his attention later, so why bother? You'll just push him further away." Compared to the other maids and nannies who lived in the other buildings, Mr. Lee worked up close and had more opportunities to see my predicament. A cheating wife, a son who sided with outsiders, I was just the man of the house in name only. I picked up a napkin, wiped my mouth, and looked up at him. I made a decision. Before I left, I had to get rid of him first. Ava didn't seem to care about what happened tonight. She didn't even come home. She had her assistant leave a message, saying there was an urgent matter at the office. Perhaps Ava had given an order, because when I asked the assistant to handle Mr. Lee's dismissal, he was paid and sent on his way quickly. When I woke up the next day, Mr. Lee was gone. A new face greeted me eagerly. "Sir, breakfast is ready. Will you be taking the young master to school? I've also prepared his lunch." Children have short memories. After a night's sleep, he had forgotten everything. He woke up and ran to me in his pajamas, hugging me. "Daddy, I want to wear my blue clothes today. And for lunch, I want chicken legs, the ones with sesame seeds." In the past, I handled every little detail of Alex's life myself. Worried he wouldn't eat well at kindergarten, I got a nutritionist certification and personally made his lunch every day, driving it to his school and waiting for him to finish before driving back. I pushed him away gently. "Let Robert get you changed," I said coolly. Once he was all ready, he paced back and forth by the front door with his backpack on, finally asking, "Dad, aren't you taking me to kindergarten today?" I didn't look up. "No, the driver will take you. From now on, Anna will be the one taking you." He didn't understand what that meant. He just scratched his head and left in a huff. I didn't have much to pack. There were some things I couldn't even be bothered to take. So when I left the villa, I only had one suitcase and the divorce agreement. As I walked out, Robert chased after me. "Sir, where are you going? Why do you have a suitcase? Will you be back for lunch? I can make your favorite dishes." I stopped, looked back at the house behind him, then turned and walked away. "I won't be back. Don't prepare lunch for me." With my suitcase in tow, I quickly found an apartment downtown. The rent was $10,000 a month. I paid without blinking an eye. Compared to the vast fortune I now controlled, this amount, which would have taken me 3 years of work to earn in college, was nothing. I now had the soul of a 19-year-old with the life and experience of a 31-year-old. It would be a waste to squander it. I didn't know if I could ever go back to the past, but living well in the present for this Leo was the right thing to do. Looking back at my resume from the past years, any single achievement could crush countless people, yet I had willingly given it all up to be a stay-at-home husband and father. When I completely withdrew from managing the company, Ava had promised me over and over, "I told you I'd give you a good life. From now on, let me handle the money-making. You can stay home, tend to the garden, read books. I'll come home from work and cook your favorite dishes. When we have kids, I'll take care of them after work. I won't let you lift a finger. Leo, you've given so much for me, for the company, for this family. I can't bear to see you worry about another thing." Thinking of this, I scoffed, then hit submit on my portfolio and resume. It was time to get back in the game. That evening, my phone suddenly rang. Sir, why didn't you come back? The young master has been throwing a tantrum for hours. He searched the whole villa for you and is now crying to the madam. He sent me a video filmed secretly. Alex would never dare to throw a real tantrum. He had always been afraid of Ava. In the video, he checked several rooms for me, and when he finally faced Ava, he just tugged on her sleeve and quietly asked where his dad was. Ava looked to be in an even worse mood. She stood with her hands on her hips, staring at my bedroom. After a long pause, she turned to him. "What are you crying about? Your father will be back in a couple of days." Realizing her harsh tone had scared him, Ava pinched the bridge of her nose, knelt down and said patiently, "The last time Daddy fought with Mommy and left with a suitcase, didn't he come back after one night? As long as you behave, he'll be home in a few days. You're not afraid he's going to fly away, are you?" A thought seemed to strike her, and Ava laughed self-deprecatingly. "Don't worry. Your dad would abandon me before he'd ever abandon you. Alex took her words to heart, and his face instantly lit up. At the end of the video, as he walked to his room, he was tapping on his kid's smartwatch. If Dad doesn't come back for a bit, that's fine. I'll just have to ask Uncle Ethan to read me stories. It's Dad's own fault for not coming back, so I have no choice but to ask Uncle Ethan. Besides, Uncle Ethan's voice is nicer than Dad's. I closed the video. Though my face in the reflection was expressionless, the pain in my heart felt like death by 1,000 cuts. The interview at Cortec went smoothly. The final round was with the CEO herself. As I walked into the office, I saw a little girl in a princess dress and pigtails unwrapping a piece of candy. When she saw me, she looked up, smiled sweetly, and offered me a piece. "Mister, have some candy." "Thank you." Just as I took it, the door was pushed open. I turned and quickly recognized a familiar face from my memories. "Ms. Ross?" I said, surprised. Because of Ava's career, I had spent years navigating various social circles, and I knew the private lives and preferences of these elites like the back of my hand. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her long, curly auburn hair swept to one side. She extended her empty right hand, her red lips parting slightly. "Stop right there. We're divorced. Please call me Wendy." I caught on immediately and didn't press further. Of course, Wendy. I hadn't expected her to be the head of this company. She seemed pleased with my resume and portfolio, except for one thing. Forgive my bluntness, but my company is a world apart from Ava's. "Mr. Leo, why not work for her?" I was frank. "I'm also in the process of getting a divorce." She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask any more questions. The little girl tugged on my clothes again, smiling sweetly. "Mr." Wendy looked at her. "My daughter, Mia." I was surprised again. She had managed to win custody from her husband's family? Perhaps our similar experiences created a sense of camaraderie. When Wendy learned the reasons for my impending divorce, she generously recommended a lawyer. He's never lost a case. A top-tier divorce attorney. Just a bit pricey. She patted my shoulder encouragingly. "Don't worry. If you're short on cash, I can give you an advance on your salary." Over the next few days, Ava called once. When I answered, she was silent for a long time. Just as I was about to hang up, she stopped me. "Renting an apartment, looking for a job, Leo, you're used to being taken care of. Why are you making things so hard on yourself? I don't understand what you're so upset about. We already cleared the air about Ethan. Why are you still making an issue out of him? Whatever you want, just ask. You can even have my life." Cleared the air? That was laughable. Back then, Ava had fired Ethan. It wasn't until much later that I learned the video of him holding her was taken when he secretly snuck into her office. But even so, I still found traces of their connection on her phone. The CEO of a publicly traded company, staying late at work just to drive an intern to a street food stall. Even though Ava denied it, even though she insisted nothing had ever crossed the line with Ethan, her mind had already cheated on me 1,000,000 times. At that time, the very sight of Ava made me want to throw up. If she so much as touched me, I would be violently ill. Over time, I stopped asking anything of her. I no longer cared who she had dinner with or why she came home late. But that made her unhappy. She'd get drunk and scream at me, asking why I didn't care about her anymore. Ethan was just a tool she used to provoke me. A shirt stained with lipstick, blatant public appearances together. I'd just glance at them with a blank face. I wasn't surprised at all when their fake relationship turned real. I hung up on Ava, my 19-year-old temper flaring. I cursed into the phone, always offering me things nobody wants. The next day, I went to the address Wendy gave me to meet the star lawyer. I'd been stirring my coffee for nearly 30 minutes when the person across from me finally lost their patience and tapped the table. "Leo, are we getting this divorce or not?" Honestly, being seen in such a pathetic situation by my old nemesis was mortifying, especially since the memory of our last argument was still fresh in my mind. A 16-year-old girl with a backpack, looking at me coldly, her words sharp enough to draw blood. "Leo, you have terrible taste in women." I composed myself and looked at Laura. We're getting it." I wasn't sure if I imagined it, but a faint smile seemed to flash across Laura's lips before disappearing. She cleared her throat. All right, what are your thoughts on asset division and child custody? I looked at her seriously. I want every cent of the assets I'm entitled to. Of course, if Ava proves difficult, I can be slightly flexible. Laura's finger paused over the custody section. I hesitated. The kid doesn't like me. I don't want custody. She paused. Fine. As for the money, I guarantee I'll get you every last penny you deserve. After all, the woman cheated first, and there's solid proof. Perhaps worried she had overstepped, she glanced at me and said righteously, Sorry. I have a natural sense of justice. I can't help but call people out when I see wrongdoing. I didn't mind. Instead, I thought for a moment. I have some evidence, but not a lot. I'll gather more in the meantime. Laura looked at me. Don't worry about the evidence. It was a strange look, the same one she'd given me at my wedding to Ava. When Ava and I got married, Laura, my sworn rival, had shown up. She wore a tailored women's suit that outshone even the bride's dress in style, cut, and price. Ava's friends had joked about it, saying anyone who didn't know better would think Laura was the groom. The comment had made Ava burn with jealousy for days. I just thought she was crazy. What was there to be jealous of with Laura? Since high school, I had consistently kept her in the number 2 spot in our class rankings by a margin of just 3 points. She had never once managed to beat me. She should have hated my guts. That night, my text notifications from Laura went off nonstop. I opened the chat and saw a flood of messages asking for documents. It was past midnight. Do all-star lawyers work this hard? No wonder she had such a great track record. Fighting off sleep, I sent her everything she needed. She replied immediately. Still up? I crashed into bed, missing the message she sent and then quickly retracted. It read, Leo, I'll help you, no matter the cost. Laura worked fast, so fast I almost thought she got her law degree just to handle my divorce. My plan was to try and settle things peacefully with Ava first. If she refused, we'd have to go to court. As for the company and its stock price, that was just a temporary loss I could handle. After work one day, I walked out of the office and saw a car parked on the street. Ava was leaning against it, a few cigarette butts at her feet. When she saw me, she quickly came over and blocked my path. Her eyes were bloodshot, her tone demanding. Leo, we need to talk. I suppressed the sudden wave of bitterness in my heart and looked at her coldly. Of course we can. My lawyer will be happy to talk with you. Don't think you can short me a single penny of the money we've earned all these years. The older Leo may have been a fool, but the younger Leo wasn't a pushover. Ava's eyes darkened, as if provoked. She sneered, Leo, how dare you? How dare you let that woman, Laura, get involved in our marriage? I don't know if it was my imagination, but after becoming a successful businesswoman, Ava had learned to mask her emotions. She rarely showed anger or joy. The only 2 times she had lost her composure and freaked out were both related to Laura. The last time she had cursed Laura out was when I ran into her at a party, though we hadn't even exchanged a word. When we were young, Ava's family was rich, while Laura came from a poor background with only her grades to her name. Later, when Ava and I were together, struggling to make ends meet, she never paid Laura much mind. Ava's feelings for Laura were a mix of disgust and apprehension, but she had never shown fear. Just as I was about to speak, a voice came from behind me. Laura was holding a stack of files, looking like she hadn't slept well, but every inch of her, from her hair to her shoes, was impeccably styled. She was infuriating, and her tongue had only gotten sharper with age. Ms. Ross, please don't refer to me as that woman. Address me by my proper title, Mr. Leo's lead divorce counsel. Leo, let's go. Don't waste another word on the enemy. It's not in our best interest. Ava grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong, a clear statement that she wouldn't let go. She turned slightly, her gaze passing over me to land on Laura. Ava's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, tinged with a casual arrogance. Laura, she began, her voice low but each word carrying clearly. You've been waiting for this day for a long time, haven't you? She paused, her eyes sweeping over my angry face. A flicker of recognition crossed her features, and her confidence seemed to swell. Too bad. Your reputation as a star lawyer is about to be shattered by me. The wind rustled Laura's blouse. Her face was impassive, but a shadow crossed her eyes, hiding a flicker of emotion. She lowered her gaze. Leo, I organized a lot of documents last night. Do you want to take a look? Just as she finished speaking, the car door next to us flew open and a small figure rushed out. Alex pushed Laura aside and stood next to his mother. His little face contorted with anger. Stay away from my dad. Don't you have your own husband? Laura stood her ground, looked down at him, and asked with genuine curiosity, not anger, how do you know I don't have a husband? Enough. I frowned. Ava, I hope you'll seriously consider the divorce. If we can't part amicably, I have no problem taking legal action. I didn't spare Alex another glance. Ava nudged his shoulder, and he suddenly stood in front of me. He looked up at me, his eyes red. Dad, Robert's cooking is terrible. I haven't had a full meal in days. I looked at him seriously. Then have your mother hire a new cook. Alex, I'm not your nanny. Uncle Leo, a red sports car pulled up, and a little girl in a frilly dress ran toward me. Come to my house for dinner. Just as I was about to bend down and take her hand, Alex exploded. He cried and pried my hand away from Mia's. He was frantic, sobbing and screaming as he confronted Mia. Don't you have your own daddy? Why are you holding my daddy's hand? Mia looked at him, confused. You're so weird. I have a mommy and an uncle. Oh, I get it. Uncle Leo doesn't want you anymore. Soon you'll be the one with no daddy. Ava picked up the crying Alex. The urgency and resentment in her eyes were gone, replaced by a heavy, almost certain coldness. Leo, she wiped the tears from her son's face with her thumb. He's begging you like this, crying his heart out, and you're completely unmoved. You have a heart of stone. But I don't believe you can really abandon your son. One day you will regret this. I watched her carry the child away, step by step. Regret? Maybe. The bond of blood is not easily broken. I was destined never to have another child. Perhaps that was one of the reasons Ava was so sure I would regret it. In the days that followed, Ava didn't come back. But I saw Alex a few times. Once or twice he snuck into my office, and another time he was out with Ethan. When Ethan saw me, he took off his sunglasses and smiled. Actually, Shelley and I lost touch ages ago, let alone had a kid. You're really easy to fool. I heard your divorce from Ava is on the schedule. All my hard work didn't go to waste. Whether he had a child or not was meaningless to me now. I glanced at him. Aren't you afraid this will get out and you'll be finished in the entertainment industry? He curled his red lips into a smile. What's so great about the entertainment industry? I work my ass off shooting a few shows, and the money I make in a month isn't even half of what your wife gives me as pocket money. Go ahead, leak it. Let them curse me out. I'll just quit. You think I care? I had been too naive. Anyone who latched onto a cash cow like Ava wouldn't let go easily. Being Ava's mistress, the moral condemnation was nothing compared to a fortune you couldn't earn in several lifetimes. I glanced at my phone, which was recording, and ignored him. Ava was a businesswoman who calculated everything. Although she spent resources promoting Ethan, she was precise about the return on investment, always keeping him just outside the A-list. That way, he wouldn't attract too much attention and bring up more trouble, nor would he become uncontrollable. A few days later, it was Mia's birthday. I bought a gift and went to Wendy's house. When I arrived, I was surprised to see Laura there too.
Ich glänzte her.
Why did she always dress so flamboyantly? Are all lawyers this free? When Laura saw me, she opened her mouth, thought for a moment, and finally said, "The process is moving quickly. Don't worry, you won't lose a single cent." Then, a flash of annoyance crossed her face. Let's not talk about that. It's Mia's birthday. I'm her friend. I laughed out loud. A friend from a different generation? Laura, why are you being so awkward? It's like you're regressing. Just then, Mia, in her princess dress, ran over and pointed at Laura's phone. Uncle Leo in here, the little girl's words were unclear, patted her head. What is it? Photo. Leo CMMPH, what are you? Before she could finish, Laura scooped her up and covered her mouth. Okay, Mia, you're talking too much. Auntie Laura has a present for you. I smiled, not thinking much of it. After dinner, Wendy and I stood on the balcony with glasses of wine, enjoying the breeze. Inside, Laura was playing games with Mia. The light fell on her, and the unmarried young woman suddenly had the air of a gentle, caring wife. I must have been drunk. I looked at Wendy and asked with great interest, Laura definitely has a crush on you, right? Otherwise, why would a high-powered lawyer who's always busy be at your beck and call like this? The moment I finished, Wendy spat out a mouthful of wine, looking at me in horror, then with a look of utter exasperation. You can't feel it? I was completely clueless. Feel what? She said, a little pityingly, never mind. It's not my place to say. I can only wish her good luck. I just smiled, assuming she was just being modest. After all, I'd never been sensitive to that sort of thing. Thinking about it, only an affection as bold and public as Ava's could have ever gotten through to me. If Ava had been shy and secretive when we were young, I never would have been interested in her. I casually asked around and found out that Wendy had gone to the same university as Ava and me. Back then, she was very poor, surviving on financial aid. Her relationship with her ex-husband began when he casually bought her a cup of coffee. At that point, Wendy had never even tasted coffee in her 20 years of life. She swirled her wine glass. Julian's mother looked down on me. To marry me, he was cut off financially for a year. Later, she felt sorry for him living in a cramped rental with me and mercifully let us come back. For 5 years, I was like her personal maid. Aside from the formal greetings, I did everything a maid would do. Even though their family had money, when she was bedridden after surgery, she insisted I clean her up with my bare hands. Disgusting, right? But I never complained, for Julian and Mia. Leo, don't ever try to change someone who doesn't like you. In that house, there was never a dish I liked, never an outfit I wanted to wear. I tried so hard to please her, but she was constantly telling Julian to divorce me. Sometimes she'd even cheerfully scout out second wife candidates for him, saying it was good to be prepared. Do you know how she introduced me to one of those women? Our little maid. She saw the sympathy in my eyes and gave a careless laugh. It's all in the past. The only thing I'm grateful for is that Mia stuck with me, and Julian's mom didn't like my daughter anyway. So for her, I have to make good money. Even if I can't match her father's family, I want her to have a happy, carefree life. She paused. That son of yours. I looked over at Mia, then thought for a moment. If he were half as good as Mia, I would fight for him with everything I have. That night, I drank too much. I vaguely remember Laura taking me home. The next morning, I stared at the ceiling for a long time before finally recalling something. I must have lost my mind. I actually asked Laura if she was for sale, and she, getting into the role, acted all shy as if she was really about to become my mistress. I had grabbed her by the collar, messing up her shirt and revealing her delicate collarbone. Then, don't let your wife find out, okay? Nothing should have happened, but just in case, I braced myself and sent a probing text. Laura replied quickly, her tone like a wife complaining about a husband who couldn't perform. You're a real charmer when you drink. I replied sincerely, thanks. I can hold my liquor pretty well, actually. The next second, she sent a photo. The strap of a silk nightgown had slipped, revealing her delicate collarbone and a patch of pale skin marked with a few bruises, making it look even whiter. Leo, you get violent when you drink. Did you ever hit your soon-to-be ex-wife when you were drunk? I closed my eyes. I don't think so. Over the years, I'd learned how to drink for business. If I didn't want to get drunk, no one could make me. Last night, I had gotten too caught up in my conversation with Wendy, venting too much, and that's why I got drunk. Laura sent a pouting, arms crossed emoji and said nothing more. She seemed quite happy. I have to say, Laura's reputation as a star divorce lawyer was well earned. Besides gathering complete evidence of Ava's infidelity, Laura had uncovered some other things. Even if Ava had the energy to drag things out, the company's board of directors wouldn't let her. The day I got my divorce certificate, a hot breeze blew past, And for a moment, I was back in that noisy school hallway on a summer afternoon. I looked at the somewhat disheveled Ava and said softly, 17 years of knowing each other, 12 years of weathering storms together. It all ends today. She looked away, her fingers trembling. Why? I already dealt with Ethan. Why did you suddenly want a divorce? You're even abandoning your own son. Leo, everyone makes mistakes. With the Ethan thing, we both know the mistake was your misunderstanding. Yet you avoided me like the plague, looked at me like I was trash. I admit I was a fool when it came to Ethan, but I only sought him out to make you look at me again. Did we get to this point because it was all my fault? Leo, ask yourself, have you ever truly trusted me? At this point, I had no energy to argue with her about right and wrong. I just said, now you're blaming me? Did I send Ethan to your bed? I should have divorced you years ago, the day Alex was born. These past few years were just a chance for us, a chance you threw away. I turned to leave, but she asked in a hoarse voice, what about Alex? He's sick and keeps calling for his dad. Can you really be so heartless? If he's sick, the Ross family has plenty of money for doctors. His father can't cure him. Laura got out of her car and I got in. Through the window, I saw her talking to Ava. Ava had a cigarette between her fingers, gripping it so tightly her knuckles turned white. Laura, you waited all these years just for today. You instigated Leo to divorce me, but what do you think you'll get? He'll never trust marriage again. The thing you've been dreaming of is destined to fail, just like it did for me. Laura smiled and said earnestly, whatever he wants, whatever role he's willing to give me, I'll take it. She narrowed her eyes and said suddenly, you probably don't know this, but I've learned a lot of tricks to seduce Leo. If you two hadn't divorced, you would have had a lover, and he would have had one too. That would be fair. I was lost in thought for a moment. When Laura got into the car, her eyes were bruised. I grabbed her by the chin. Did she hit you? It's nothing. It doesn't hurt, Laura said, her long lashes fluttering as she let out a soft hiss. I cursed Ava a few more times and bent down to look for the first aid kit in the car. Laura smiled almost imperceptibly and tugged on my sleeve. After a long moment, she asked, that love letter I gave you in our sophomore year, you threw it in the trash the next day. Did you hate me that much? I froze, not knowing which part of that sentence to be more surprised about. But I quickly shook my head. No, it wasn't me. I never even saw your love letter. How could I have thrown it away? She pressed her lips together, seeming to realize something, and didn't press further. She just said in a gentle voice, then I'll write you another one. You're not allowed to throw it away. In recent days, with Wendy's not-so-subtle hints and Laura's unconcealed feelings, I had long realized I'd been wrong about her and Wendy. Life needs a little fun. Hearing her, I raised an eyebrow. Go ahead and write it. It might take a while. How long? Roughly a lifetime. Is that okay? My fingertips, which had been applying medicine to her face, paused mid-air. I looked straight into her eyes, which were a swirling mix of nervousness, sincerity, and affection, creating a look of pure terror. I lowered my head, applying a little pressure with my fingertips. Where did you learn such cheesy pickup lines? So lame. Laura winced in pain and took the opportunity to grab my wrist. Her warm lips pressed a reverent kiss onto the palm of my hand as she looked at me without blinking. Her eyes were like a fox's, cool and captivating. In the years that followed, I lived freely and without restraint. Only once, Ava left our 5-year-old son out in the cold, let him get sick, and then called me. When I found out, Ava's laugh was chilling. I told you before, a child who can't keep you here is worthless to me. I slapped her hard and screamed at her until I was hoarse. In the end, the boy was sent to live with his maternal grandparents. I thought life would just go on like this, until I opened my eyes one day to the ceiling of my dorm room. I realized I was back at 19, but I knew with certainty that it hadn't been a dream. It was real. My future with Ava was one of a young couple who wouldn't grow old together. The next morning, I looked down from my balcony and saw the beautiful, tall figure of Ava already waiting downstairs. Why? You promised yesterday. How could you forget after one night's sleep? Please stop messing with me. Young Ava's face was pale with anxiety. I get it. You want to wait a little longer, right? That's okay. We can just go back to how things were. It was strange. I could curse at and even hit the 31-year-old Ava. But facing the 19-year-old Ava, I only felt regret. I had liked her so much too. I told her seriously, no. What I mean is, I don't like you, and I won't be with you now or ever. Even though I made it crystal clear that day, Ava still didn't believe me. She thought I was just angry and kept hovering around me. One day, she came in the pouring rain, rushing into the hallway and pulling back a cloth to reveal a soaked kitten. Her hair was also drenched, clinging pitifully to her forehead. Last time you wanted to adopt a cat and I said no. Are you mad about that? I took it to get its shots. It's clean now. We can keep it. I didn't take the cat. She came back with other things. We were too late last time and didn't get to the front of the line. You were still thinking about that food you missed, right? I went to line up first thing this morning. It's still hot. She went through our past, eliminating one possibility after another, until she couldn't find any more reasons. She blocked my path. The girl who had always held her head so high, her eyes now red. Leo, what did I do wrong? Tell me and I'll change everything. As if all her strength had given out, she couldn't stand any longer and fell to her knees, hugging my legs. I'm begging you, please don't leave me. I can't live without you. I looked down at the top of her dark head. I believed her. At least, the Ava of this moment was sincere. In those future years, I saw myself getting seriously ill in the second year after graduation. By then, Ava's family was broke, and we were struggling financially. The surgery cost $400,000. Ava couldn't raise the money. She heard that some people she had offended in the past had found her. If she was willing to kneel and kowtow to them in apology, they would give her the money. Ava didn't hesitate for a second. She knelt and bowed her head. The group of rich kids laughed, throwing the money on the ground. She picked it up bill by bill. Just before I went into surgery, I discovered she had hidden sleeping pills. That night, I lay in the hospital bed, crying as I asked her why. Her eyes were dark with exhaustion as she held my hand tightly. Leo, if you're not here, I won't live alone. How ridiculous. She loved me as much as her own life, but what did it matter? My life had started over. I would not gamble on it again, no matter what. Later, I heard that Ava had attempted suicide and almost didn't make it. Ava's mother, though a lady of high society, had never once tried to interfere in our relationship. When she came to persuade me, her attitude was kind, but I was firm. Before she left, she looked at me and sighed. It seems my daughter just isn't fortunate enough. After that, even when we crossed paths, I acted as if I didn't see Ava. Following my memory, I found Wendy on the street, handing out flyers. If the 30-year-old her was a fiery rose, the one before me was a cool, resilient, beautiful flower. I grabbed her without explanation. Come on, I'll buy you a coffee. She was bewildered. What are you doing? I don't know you. I paused, thinking. Don't want coffee? How about bubble tea? Or do you want a drink? Wendy picked up her mascot head and dutifully handed me a flyer. I don't want anything. After my persistent pestering, Wendy's first cup of coffee was finally on me. After that, I kept bothering her. And Julian never appeared again. Or maybe he did, and I just didn't know. The story followed its own path. In the years that followed, relying on my memories, I hit one investment boom after another. In just a few short years, Wendy and I founded a company together. The company grew and grew, and Wendy became a powerhouse businesswoman again, clacking around in high heels and counting money. She didn't marry Julian. She married a man who treated her very well, and even his family, feeling for her past hardships, cherished her. What I found most incredible was that Wendy had a daughter in the second year of her marriage, and her daughter grew up to look exactly like Mia. Once she could talk, she would also offer me candy and call out, "Uncle Leo," in a way that always melted my heart. As for Ava, even though I had given her mother a heads up, her family still went bankrupt. Ava still embarked on the path of entrepreneurship, but she had yet to succeed and was still spinning her wheels. I remembered the years we built our business together. Ava had been a princess, No matter how much she suffered, some parts of her personality never changed. So much of the time, I had to be the one to navigate the social niceties for her, both in public and behind the scenes, pulling strings and making connections. I remembered one year, she was struggling to secure an investment from Innovatech, and the company was in trouble. I asked around and found the husband of Innovatech as CEO, planning a roundabout approach. At that time, there was a patch of mud outside his apartment building that the property management had neglected to fix. Every time he came home, he would frown at the dirt on his shoes. Starting the next day, I brought a handkerchief and, before he entered his building, I would kneel and carefully wipe his shoes. I bent over like that, smiling and wiping his shoes for half a month. Finally, one day, after he opened his door, he turned and called out to me, "Come in for a bit, Mr. Leo." But I never told Ava about these things. Even now, she has no idea how some of those deals were really made. After coming back, I handled everything properly, but I always felt like I was forgetting something. Until one night, I suddenly remembered a pair of beautiful fox-like eyes. Oh, I forgot about Laura. Never mind. I thought about it and lay back down. Laura's future was perfect. I was better off not interfering. I was determined not to seek out Laura, but I ran into her at a street corner. The Laura before me was less a polished bombshell than her 30-year-old self, but she had a captivating, girlish charm. This time, she got straight to the point. "I want to ask you, that love letter I gave you in our sophomore year, did you throw it away because you hated me?" I feigned a moment of thought, then uttered a single word. "Forgot." Laura's eyes fell, her knuckles turning white as she clenched her fists. I smiled and raised an eyebrow. "But you could always write me another one. I promise I won't throw it away this time." At my words, she looked up sharply, her face a picture of disbelief. The spring wind carries its message, the flowers bloom in their time. "Laura, you can take your time writing that letter.